Welcome to America's Horse on America's Trail with the Mustang Discovery Ride. I'm your host, Julianne Neal. Over the next 12 months, we'll be following tip trainers Hannah Catalino and Lisanne Fear, along with Aveline, Bagheera, Chili, Cody, Finn, and Rosette, and of course, Fyra and Caillou, as they cross the American Discovery Trail on a quest to bring attention to the plight of America's Mustangs. With a goal of 5,000 miles, 5,000 Mustangs, the Mustang Discovery Ride team hopes to bring attention to adoption into appropriate homes for these living legends. We hope that you'll join Hannah and Lisanne on this journey of a lifetime by following the Mustang Discovery Ride podcast. Enjoy the ride. In this episode, we'll sit down for a conversation with Felixlette, long rider, author, journalist, and filmmaker. So where are you right now? Are you back in Canada?
Yeah, I'm in Calgary, Alberta.
Awesome. The last I saw you when Equus was in Canada for the film festival. I think that's where we briefly crossed paths for a few minutes and got to see you and meet you then. So it's great to see you again. Have you met the girls already, Hannah and Lisanne?
I have not.
Well, the introduction's in order. So, hey.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I'm Lisanne. And this is Hannah over here. We're super excited to meet you. We actually have horses at Karen's.
No way.
Yeah, so she's
amazing.
All about you. So yeah, it was also exciting. I meant to show you. I finally finished your book last night. Like 3 a.m. I was like, oh man, I'm meeting you today. Like I have to get through it. But it's a little
thank you so much.
It's on its own long ride. The book is right now. So
that's the best. I love when people digest their books. That's what I do. I write all over them and they're always crunched up by the end of it, but it shows they actually read it, right?
Right. Yeah,
exactly. Well, today is going to be fun. I'm really excited to kind of talk to all of y'all together and see you've got some similarities going, and the long ride thing is just fascinating. So I'll ask some questions, but I also want y'all to interact and have a good time talking and seeing if you can learn from each other and all that too. So it'll be a great call. Thanks for being with me today. So welcome to the podcast, everybody. We're here today, of course, with Hannah and Lisanne on their journey. They're still, I hate to ask, in West Virginia, correct?
Unfortunately, yeah.
We
love to become long-term residents here.
But just different things going on. But we're also thrilled to be joined by long rider, author, filmmaker, Felixlette. So Felipe, thank you for joining us for the podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here with you and these amazing ladies on their own long ride. I can't wait to talk about it.
Well, definitely, we're going to talk about that. I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey first, and I'll be asking some questions along the way, but I know the girls are going to have some things to add and to ask you, of course, as we talk about your ride. Can you tell us, first of all, you started... Well, I think you were born to be a long rider, honestly, from family things all the way back from your dad and grandfather and everybody else. But can you tell us a little bit about your journey as a long rider and the ride that you started, I guess, around 2012, I think, 2011, 12. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, ma'am. Like you said, I feel like it was in my destiny to become a long rider. Everything that happened in my life led me to one decision, and that decision was to saddle my horses and ride home to Brazil. I was born in the interior of Sao Paulo, a small town in Brazil, and my dad was a horse lover, is a horse lover. So he raised me on the back of a horse. My name is Felipe because it means a friend of horses. And before I could even walk, I was, atop a quarter horse with my dad going to ropings and rodeos and different cavalgatas that we do in Brazil, which are horseback rides that can last anywhere from a day to 3 days. And not only did he give me all of that, but before I went to sleep every night, he used to read Aim Chifley's story to me, Chifley's ride, and tell me a little bit of part of the story every night. And it became my life's dream to go on my own long ride. And I ended up moving to Canada when I was 9 years old. My parents migrated to the Great White North, ended up going to school for journalism. And in my last year of journalism, it was just, it was, like I said, stronger than me. It was like every cell in my body was saying, you know, now is the time. It's a time to live this dream, this purpose that you've had, and to go on your own long ride. So I spent 2 years planning the project. I didn't have a single penny, build a war room, convinced sponsors to back me up. I was given the 2 horses to start the trip, convinced the Calgary Stampede to allow me to leave from the Centennial Rodeo, the Royal Mounted Police to see me out, the Long Riders Guild, Colin O'Reilly, Basho O'Reilly were very supportive, gave me so much help. Different long riders, Stan Walchuk. I went up to do a clinic with him before I left, learn how to pack. You know, I used to be a tie down roper, rodeo cowboy, but it's completely different to you know, pack a horse, to ride 30 kilometers a day, to travel 5-6 days a week, to ride 16,000 kilometers. So there was a steep learning curve, but thanks to an amazing amount of people, it takes a village to create a long rider, quite literally. And thanks to that village, I was able to depart July 8th of 2012, take the first step on that dream, and the rest is history.
Wow. So how long, what your start date was then? What was your end date? What was the final date that you arrived in Brazil and to the cheering crowds?
Yeah, it was amazing. 803 days, 10 countries, 16,000 kilometers, that first ride. Rode into the largest rodeo in Latin America, 40,000 people yelling, cheering. Just, you know, a moment that I'll never forget. Like, you don't do it for that reason, obviously. I didn't know what kind of a homecoming I'd have or what proportion the journey would take. I was doing this to live a dream, you know, to literally fulfill something that felt like nothing less than my purpose, my reason to be here on earth. And but yeah, it was extraordinary. Like, it was all over. It became something that was bigger than my dream or my journey. It became the Brazilians' dreams and their own project, because they saw themselves, I think, in me in a way. I was celebrating Western culture, the horse, and everything that it means, you know, to be a cowboy and to be a horseman. And yeah, this rodeo just threw an epic welcome home party for me in the rodeo helicopter hovering over us, filming everything live on television, fireworks, a statue built more than 5 meters tall of the horses and I. It was epic. And but you know, life is not a Disney movie. It's not a bed of roses. And once I concluded that journey, I had the worst 6 months of my life. After the fact, I was not prepared for, you know, what it'd be like to step down from the saddle after 2 years chasing kilometers, living so intensely with the horses and everything that I'd been through. You know, Central America brought a lot of danger. I saw 2 people shot dead. I witnessed a man trying to kill his wife, and there were many moments where I thought I was going to die or lose one of my horses. So I was in really bad shape, you know, faced depression, anxiety, couldn't sleep, nightmare, and jumped back into the saddle. The horse was my therapy, and went to Ushuaia on horseback. So it was a second long ride that I went on, and that took 1 year and 3 months from Barretos, where I finished the first, all the way to the end of the world, southern tip of Argentina. And then when I got there, I decided to do a final long ride, my third and final ride from Alaska back to Calgary to finish off the Americas. So the entire project was, it took 8 years, 25,000 kilometers across 12 countries. And I just finished in 2020.
Wow. Well, I know from reading, you know, you're talking about the dangers, and I remember the story of the hotel you're in and the guy, and you hear the gunshots and you're thinking, you know, how am I going to get out of here? And that danger aspect of it is something that I worry about for Hannah and Lisanne all the time too. They don't seem to care, but girls, can you talk a little bit about that and have a chat with Felipe about some of the things, the safety parts of being on the trail?
Well, we have like a lot of respect for Felipe because we feel like our long ride is so domesticated in comparison. Yeah. You know, staying in at least the same country. I mean, we have a lot of respect for someone, you know, crossing international territory. But that doesn't mean that we don't have our own dangers, you know, just on roads and horses being horses and never knowing kind of where we're stepping into. So, I mean, it doesn't make us immune by any means, but definitely power to you.
I mean, yeah, we haven't witnessed any murders, and the only gunshots have been my own of practicing different things.
No, that's amazing. But I always tell people, like, I feel like if you ride 3 days on a long ride, or you ride 2 years, whether you cross, one town or three countries or one country, it's all the same. The same stuff can go down as, horses and the 21st century. Sometimes you got to get next to roads, and you can get in a wreck with a horse in a barn in your ranch, never mind crossing different states and different towns. So kudos to you girls. I know exactly what you're going through. It's not easy, but we love it. And I think that, I don't know about you girls, but for me, like, I never thought about the dangers. It was never like, well, what if my horse gets hit by a truck, or what if I, have to befriend drug lords? Like, that was never in my mind. It was just, the project, following the dream, my love for the horse, and having that positivity, I think, really helped me. And when the problems emerge, you're there, you're in the saddle. What are you gonna do? You can't press the
Yeah,
disappear button. You just deal with it. And I
you have
think
to solve
what
them
I
as they
learned,
come.
exactly, you cross the bridge when you get there. I'm sure you can relate to this as well. And when you think about problems and you imagine them in your mind, they're much bigger and scarier than when you're in front of the bear. You know what I mean? Like,
Hannah's really good at that. Hannah's really good about thinking things and blowing them up way big.
yeah, we all are, right? Like, that's just it's a part of our instincts. That's how we survived when we lived in caves. Our minds are set up and wired to keep us safely. Like, no, you're not going to cross that spot. A bear could eat you, or a mountain lion. You stay in the cave with the fire, and you'll be safe, right? So I think neurologically, we all have that. When you think about it in your mind, it's like, oh my God, the bears are going to eat me. I'm going to fall off the mountain. The drug lord's going to take me hostage and kill me. But then when you're there, it's nothing happens, and you're able to actually do it, right?
Yeah, that's really incredible. I mean, yeah, I read your book and everything. The first one, we have the second one on the trailer. Haven't dove into it quite yet, but yeah, I mean, it's just incredible what all you had to go through. But I mean, it did make me feel a little bit more comfortable with you stopping because your horses were injured and stuff. We're going on a month-long layup right now just because Hannah has a horse down and I had a horse get tick fever along the way too. And so we were stopped a couple weeks for that. But yeah, I mean, but it's also hard, like the whole public aspect of it. Like, we're lucky we have a support vehicle with us the whole way, but we drove an hour and 15 minutes to be here on this meeting right now. So that way we could have good enough Wi-Fi
Oh,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
be here. So like we could kind of relate to what you went through a little bit on that. I don't know. I'm
yeah.
so excited to see your documentary. Lisa told us that it's coming out here soon because
Oh, yeah.
yeah, the filming of everything that we've had to go through is just, I'm sorry, Julianne, but sometimes it's just like a pain in the ass. Like, I don't know, like what you went through out there alone, but just, I mean, we're so blessed to have this truck, sponsored through BLK, but we can charge all of our devices with the truck. And so that's nice. I have no idea what you were doing just out there alone in the middle of like all these crazy countries. So
That's good. So I have to give a shout out to our sponsors, BLK Water. Heather Reichel is with me filming, and her daughter Becky, and Bruce, of course, and we just had the trek of a lifetime down to the creek to film the Mustang Discovery Ride team riding through up and down beautiful hillsides and creeks here in West Virginia, and got back, and I couldn't wait for some of the BLK water that we had in the trailer because it's amazing. Balance, love, kindness, Blackwater, clear benefits. This episode is sponsored in part by Nature's View, the Marley Project, and JA Media Productions. To learn more about what we do, visit naturesview.us.
so Felipe, did you camera yourself and just like you did whatever you did and just kept it rolling? Or how did you do that? I'm fascinated to know.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. Like the ladies are saying, a lot of people think that we're just riding the horses, right? But you need to be a vet, you need to be a farrier, you need to be the long rider, and you need to be the cinematographer, publicist, do the marketing and everything else. You got to wear different hats. And that was one of the hardest parts of the trip, you know, like doing everything I needed to do to keep myself and the horses safe on that first journey. You know, we had a support vehicle for a couple months in the southern US to carry water, but the other, you know, 2 years that I was by myself, you know, just pack horse, and it was very hard to carry the equipment. I was carrying 2 cameras, a GoPro, my computer. I would film everything on 2 cards, A and B, and then I would send the A's to the production company in Nashville, Tennessee, via FedEx whenever I got to a town or a city. Like in Guatemala, I had to take a bus to the capital because there wasn't FedEx anywhere to ship these cards. And when it arrived in Nashville and they had it into, they had backed it up into their hard drives, they would let me know so I could film with the B, and then they would send me the A's back. But yeah, it was really hard. You're super tired. You just rode for 8-10 hours a day. Now you need to untack your horses, set up camp, and film everything and talk about what happened. Or you get to Mexico and you know, you're super tired and this family is giving this traditional barbecue and you just want to sit there and enjoy it and get to know them. But you know that ultimately there is a production company financing the trip. You want to show people what you're doing. That was a huge part of this project for me, was inspiring people to you know what we're talking about, not being scared to follow their dreams, to step out of their comfort zones, to ride horses and live a more natural way of life. So I wanted to really capture that to show people. And as a filmmaker, you know the most important moments are the tense moments. When Bruiser filmed that hole, I now had the challenge of, do I film this or do I get the horse out? Well, I need to film it first before I get the horse out, because ultimately I'm a filmmaker and people, this is going to be the best part of the film. Unfortunately, luckily I got him out, he was fine. But yeah, it's really tough, as the girls say, to film it. And to go back a second, when you girls were talking about being stopped and your horses being hurt, that's the name of the game in long riding. It's all about having patience. You know, you could kill a horse in a week on a journey like this. And obviously your animals are our number one worries when we're out there. We only eat after they've eaten. We've only drank after they've had a drink. And they're literally our children. That's the only way I can describe it to people. I'm sure the girls feel the same way. So don't feel bad about stopping. That's the most important part about the trip, and waiting till your horses are sound and ready to go. And for me, what I discovered is that those are the most special parts of the trip. Sometimes I would meet someone that I wouldn't have met. Something would happen that wouldn't have happened otherwise when I was on those layovers that I hadn't planned. So yeah.
Can you talk a little bit, you mentioned the horses and their well-being, and I know I've been talking with Hannah and Lisanne about all the different personalities, from Cody the little burro to Abilene the mule and all the Mustangs. And so talk about Bruiser and Frenchie. You started out riding Bruiser. Frenchie's the pack horse. What were their personalities like, and how did they handle the trip?
So when I met Frenchie, due to a lack of budget, Stan Weaver, quarter horses, and Copper Spring Ranch donated both Frenchie and Bruiser. Now, I had no funding, so Brian Anderson, who was the manager of Copper Spring Ranch, his wife, Lisa, was coming up to Canada, to Okotoks, to compete in a rodeo right before the Calgary Stampede. So he told me, I'll take the horses up to you and meet you there, and then you can get them 7 days before you're supposed to leave. And I'll start working with Bruiser, who was from Copper Spring Ranch. You know, he's a great horse. He's very well trained, and we'll get him into shape for you. And then I'll pick up Frenchie, who's Stan Weaver's horse in northern Montana, and haul them up. And when Brian arrived in Okotoks and I went to pick up the horses, Brian was limping. Now, Brian is a, you know, tougher than life cowboy, bulldogger. So I just imagine he had like, you know, an injury from the old rodeo days. And the first thing he said to me was, Stan Weaver gave you a bronc, man. I'm so sorry. He nearly just kicked the leg clean off my body in the trailer. I'm like, oh my God. I went to go see Frenchie and like pet him, and he just shoots back on the trailer and nearly rips the side of the trailer off. He's this like huge quarter horse, like very strong. And yeah, that was Frenchie. He was very scared. He hadn't been ridden in years. I don't know what his history was. Stan had got him from someone else, but he had some history to him. I don't know if he was, you know, at some point someone had forced him into doing something too quick, or had, you know, beat him maybe, or I don't know what it was, but he was a horse that you had to be very calm around. You had to be very patient with him. And the first time I put the pack saddle on him, sure enough, he bucked like a bronc in the arena, ran into Bruiser and Bruiser started bucking, threw me off the saddle. I broke my finger. This is now 6 days before leaving from the Stampede. But Frenchie really came into his own. You know, that's what I love about these long rides, is that it's a very natural way to build a horse's physical strength and mental strength, because you're introducing all these different things to them, like bridges, cars, tractors, houses, cities, rivers, mountains, you name it. But they're tired. They're, you know what I mean? They're working. It's not like you're forcing them into doing anything. So they start to look at things, and because they've just ridden 30 kilometers to get there, they think before they react. And Frenchie, by the time we got to Brazil, was a great horse. He was very strong, both mentally and physically. I always said he was like the Brad Pitt or like the Wayne Johnson of the group, like The Rock. So beautiful, so strong. Everyone always looked in Mexico. The people would drive looking under the car, like out the window, to see if he was still, if he wasn't cut, because they wanted to chat like a baby from him, because he was so beautiful. And Bruiser was just like the 007 of the group. He was this super intelligent horse, fit for a king. He understood, you know, the rider, or me anyways, before you even asked for it, he was already doing it. And just super calm. And yeah, he was an amazing horse and helped us a lot. And then there was Dude, the Mustang that Karen Hardy, who the girls know so well, my American mom who adopted me, helped me acquire through the Taos Pueblo indigenous people in New Mexico. And it was my first chance to ride a Mustang. And he was just extraordinary. I called him Little Surfer Dude. He never really opened his eyes fully, like he just smoked a joint. And he had this like beautiful blonde mane that would like blow in the wind. And but yeah, like how rustic he was, how strong he was. I saw him roll down a mountain one time and just shake it off and start grazing. He fell into an old cattle guard, completely ripped his leg. You could see the bone. And in like a couple weeks, he was galloping again. Like, it's unbelievable the strength these animals have. And that's why on my last trip, I rode 2 Mustangs from the Osoyos Indian band, just because I just realized they were the best horses for a long ride. There's no better horse.
Sweet. We love hearing that.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, because I mean, the whole purpose of the Mustang Discovery Ride is to bring that attention out there. So let me hear a little bit more about that Mustang aspect of it.
Well, it's just it's natural selection, right? Like with quarter horses and other domesticated animals that we have today, and different breeds, we cross them for generations and generations to get them to do what we want. You know, whether it's being explosive for a quarter horse that ropes, or having that cow sense for a quarter horse that's going to cut or work with cattle. Whereas the Mustangs, it's natural selection, and generation of the strongest survive and the weakest die off. So when you are climbing mountains and riding 30 kilometers a day for, you know, thousands of kilometers, you want a Mustang. You want an animal that has those big bones, that has those strong feet, that has that ability to survive in the hardest of locations, that doesn't need to eat a lot, you know, because they don't lose weight, because they live in the wild and they don't have feed. They have to look for forage. And if it snows too much, they have to dig. And if it's a huge drought, they have to live with the little moisture that there is. So you can't put a price on that, and how rustic they are, how resilient they are. And yeah, Dude just proved to me over and over again, no matter where we were, whether it was snowing or it was 40 degrees and humid in Central America, he was always my go-to horse, that he felt everything less. He suffered less with the elements because of that DNA that he had in those genetics. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of Mustangs. I do think that they need to be trained properly. Their minds can be an issue because their flight or fight instinct is so much stronger than domesticated horses. Obviously, that can be dangerous when you're following roads and there's, you know, trucks going by you. And if you stick out your arm, the truck will hit your arm. So yeah, they need to be trained properly. But yeah, just tremendous animals. Like, my hat goes off to the Mustang and their power.
So Lucian and Hannah, I've been wanting to ask you guys too. I mean, you've got 5, 6 with you right now. Are there any that you have at home that you've considered bringing onto the trip now that you've been on it 3 months, however many months? Time's flying when we're having fun, right? But are there any that you have at home or out with other folks that you've considered bringing on for parts of the ride?
Yeah, so going back to Karen Hardy, so like what I would I mean, aside from Finn, I've got Finn on the trip with me, but I mean, my A team is like at Karen's place right now, like my pack team. They've just been awesome. They've had a bunch of dudes on them, whatever. And I really miss having Stash around because he's just such a big, goofy goober. I wouldn't mind having him, but Karen, you know, we all know she's a bit of a crazy lady. She's currently planning a long ride from where she's at in Washington now down to meet us in possibly Utah or Nevada. And she'll actually be riding a few of my Mustangs. So as long as my boys hold up, like Karen can keep them. But yeah, I was telling Hannah, like I do miss my other team that I have up there. So they're just waiting in the wings. I'm excited for them to join us, so that's for sure.
Yeah, Karen also has our other mule stang, and yeah, I'm really excited for her to join because she's just so forward anyways, and I think she would really like to get somewhere, and she would cover a lot of ground going. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm a little jealous that Applene's going to be riding soon because I'm like, oh man, I want to get Wyona riding, and then we can both be riding our mule stangs. But yeah, so I'm really excited for her. Karen also has one of my Mustangs, Marvel, who was one of my competition Mustangs last year. But I just kind of overcommitted myself and didn't have time to compete with him. But Karen was like, hey, I really want to help you out. So I'll take I'll take you know, some horses for you and all of that. So she's also working with him. And then I have an older Mustang at home named Tino. And Tino was actually gentled at 18 years old. And he's been a really awesome guy. Like, initially he was really wild and I was like, oh my gosh, why did I do this to myself? Like, I didn't need a project like this.
He's really gnarly looking, by the way. Like, he has like a torn nostril and everything, like showing how wild, like the wild it is.
Yeah, and like he's a roan, so like you can see like the history written on him, like of all of the fights he's been on. So he's like a true, like, you know, he was a wild Mustang stallion for a super long time. And so it was just really cool, you know, to not only gain the trust of like a wild Mustang, but then this horse that didn't need anyone for, you know, 17 or 18 years. But then like 2 weeks in, I'm having a 16-year-old student saddle him for the first time and things like that. And, you know, his first rides are really great. So I really would like him to join because he is a really neat horse, and just to prove to people that even the older Mustangs can be good. Make good partners. Byra wanted to get in on the conversation. But yeah, so I would really like him to join at some point. So hopefully he does.
Well, Felipe, what are the chances of you riding on down with Karen and joining up with this ride? Don't you want to come along?
Oh my God, that's all I want to do. I would love to. That's amazing. I would love to. I didn't know Karen was planning that ride. I'm gonna have to talk to her. And yeah, I would love to join for a couple days, and maybe even when she gets to the girls, and we could share a day or two in the saddle. It would be an honor, that's for sure.
Oh wow, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, we would love to have you along with us, that's for sure. Maybe we'll know a little bit more by then.
For sure.
Tune in to our next episode to hear part 2 of our conversation with Felipe.